Welcome everyone to this Benzinga interview. Today I'm joined by Blair LaCourte, the CEO of AEye. Blair, it's a pleasure to have you with us. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Blair, some really exciting things that we're going to be talking about today. I'd like to start off with AEye and some of the technical things you guys do, but how is AEye different than other LiDAR players in the market? What exactly do you do that's specified and different from the rest of the space?
Sure. Well, I would say in context, my dad always said, look, when you're investing, you bet on the macro, you optimize the micro, and then, really the difference is the team. But I would say the difference in our company versus others is we play in the LiDAR market. I think most people realize that LiDAR as a deterministic sensor has been around for about 60 years. And just like cameras and radar and RFID, it's about to actually make its and show into the big time. You'll probably see LiDAR in almost everything you use over the next 10 years. You already have it in your iPad and your iPhone. So in the LiDAR market itself, our differentiation both comes in the technology as well as in the business model compared to our competitors. Our technology is what we call adaptive LiDAR. Most of our team comes from the military. Again, LiDAR has been around for 60 years, been highly optimized in telecom and the military for the last 25. And what adaptive LiDAR really means is that most LiDARs, like a camera, just take an image using lasers and they pull it back and they try to figure out what's interesting in that image. The difference in adaptive LiDAR is it was made for high risk, high speed, high value type acquisitions, which means just like a human, as we're going down the road, if the situation changes, the pattern and how the laser actually interrogates the environment changes. So really, AEye is the only adaptive LiDAR company. The business model is different in that we actually sell with partners because we're an adaptive system. We give a lot of partners, for instance, the largest car integration companies and OEMs, the chance to kind of customize their product. It would be the difference for those of your viewers who invest in tech, the difference between using an ASIC, which is hardwired to do one thing over and over and over again, or using an NVIDIA GPU, which uses a platform and you optimize to figure out how to bring information to make decisions.
Okay, wonderful. Now, Blair, something else I'd like to ask you. There are a lot of misconceptions about this market, about AEye and all the things you guys are getting into. What are some of those misconceptions and what can you kind of clarify for us about what sets you apart and makes you guys different?
Yeah, listen, it's a great question. I mean, a lot of people have heard about LiDAR and there's great consensus that this is the next sensor that will be implemented to take us to the final step. Most sensors today actually assist humans. So a camera or a radar or an RFID system or ultrasonic, it can send us signals, but at the end of the day, the human has to actually take control, whether that's a car or a construction vehicle. The beauty of LiDAR is that it is the only deterministic sensor, which means it's 100% accurate at depth and distance. So this is one of the things that will enable a machine to actually be better than a human and a human to be a backup to the machine. That should change almost everything that moves or everything that tracks things that move. So I think for me, having done a bunch of these interviews, two of the biggest misconceptions are people agree LiDAR will be in everything. I think one of the misconceptions is that it will replace cameras and it will replace radar systems. We think it will actually augment them. So the way our system was built was as a system. In the military, we actually use all sensors and we integrate them together to bring back the same information. So the way we're architected is very different. Another misconception is that all LiDARs are the same. It's just a laser. Because of our experience and because we've been down this road before, we built a very high performance system. In fact, we're only one of two people in the marketplace that uses a 1550 wavelength, which is a very powerful but very, very safe wavelength. And so what we do is we actually enable at speed and with small objects to actually analyze the environment. What does that do? Well, listen, in a car company, they don't wake up every day and say, I want to add a new sensor in. I want to add LiDAR in. They wake up and say, what can I do to make my car safer? And what can I do to add a new feature? And about 80% of the requests we have for new features today are things to do with highway. So we believe that we're extremely well positioned, not only in our functionality to be one of only two companies that can do highway autopilot, but also with our business model with partners like Continental, who already have relationships with the majority of OEMs, have sold 20 million LiDAR and over 100 million radar in the past. One of the things that people ask us is, listen, I understand an adaptive system. it actually is, aware of what's happening. So if I'm on the highway, I may run a different pattern than if I'm in the city. If it starts raining, I may jack up the energy. And that seems very logical to have situational awareness. One of the things that we like to show about that situational awareness is how far we can actually adapt using the same sensor. So we actually have done a couple of things that have never been done before. One is in distance. We just set the world record for distance with 1,000 meters. A second is in density, very, very high density, 1,600 per square inch. But one of the ones that I think is really viscerally impressive is we just tracked a bullet at very, very high speed, small objects. So you can imagine in the automotive industry where you need functional safety, you need reliability, redundancy, and you also need very, very high peak performance. Being able to track a bullet, that's an amazing feat. Has never really been done with a commercial off the shelf system. And I think that it was just a lot of fun to be able to push that envelope. I think the second misconception is that this is all about technology. In reality, when you get to a mature market, especially a vertical market where you have to implement into a process or an existing sales channel, the business model and the management team matter. I'm very proud that on our team, we not only have a great diversity in technology. The ex-chief scientist for DARPA, Louis, the technical founder, was at NASA, Northrop, and Lockheed developing the sensor systems for all of our jets, and myself working ground and force deployment in Afghanistan and Iraq. We also have 4 members of our team who have been public company executives, gone through the IPO process, and built very, very large companies. So at the end of the day, your investors are going to have to make a couple decisions. Do I believe in the macro? Is this the differentiated company I want to go with? Do I understand enough about the technology? You're never going to understand everything. And then ultimately, again, I believe the secret is how the management team will implement, react, and do you want to trust us with your money?
Wonderful. Very interesting. And I think the addressable market that you have in front of you might be the most interesting part of this. But I'd like to talk about another detail too here. I'm very interested in the deep relationship you have with Continental. Can you tell us more details about that? Why is that so important for you?
Sure. Well, listen, many of your viewers may know Continental from, if you're a mountain biker, phenomenal tires, or if you have a high performance car, phenomenal tires. But Continental is about a 150-year-old company, and it's the largest in what you may have heard the term ADAS, the auto assist kind of things that we're putting into your car. I call it autonomy on demand. While your car may not be autonomous 100% of the time, you can see that in different aspects, whether you're parking or in the future on the highway, your car will be autonomous. Continental is a leader in that area. They have 25 of the largest OEMs in the world. People you'd know, OEMs, of course, are the brand names of the car companies, and over 50 brands. So we partnered with Continental as one of the largest car integrators in the world as our customer to integrate that into their solution they deliver. So, in the high volume automotive market, we're different than all of our other competitors because our customers really what we call these tier ones, the largest companies in the world that actually put the cars together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all that information, Blair. It's been a fantastic interview. We're really excited to be partnered up with you guys and teaching our audience more about AI, and some of the things that you've given us today I think are very, very interesting when it comes to your addressable market and some of the things you have in your future. Blair LaCourte, CEO of AEye, thank you so much for joining us and telling us some more about what you're doing.
Thanks for having me.